show tonight. Um, I know I promised some of y'all that I would do a recording of the story that I have put together for my grandfather. My grandfather's passing. So I want to start the show by sending shots out to Cleveland Brown, knowing my undying love and devotion. My prayers go out, my libations go out. I've been thinking about this show all day, and when I got up to do my piece, I didn't have time to turn on the mic, so I wasn't able to do the show like I had thought I was going to do. So you got to excuse me, it's real late and I'm sleepy, so I'm slipping up on things. Hopefully you heard what I just said, rest in peace, Cleveland Brown, 1924 to 2012. This is my acceptance of the fact that my grandfather is gone, and each of us have, in a sense, touchstones in our life where when those touchstones are removed, there's like a void that's there. And my grandfather was one of those touchstones. Although I wasn't able to talk with him in the way that I should, or did everything that I possibly could, or was around him as much as I could, the idea of him not actually ever being around is staggering. I never envisioned him not being there. Once again, I go back to the analogy of you never miss the well till the water runs dry, So I'm just sending these shots out to my grandfather, and because I didn't get to do what I was going to do for y'all live, I'm going to do it right now. And actually it'll be better right now, because the issue that I was dealing with was I had a time restraint. I had 2 minutes, and of course y'all know it take me longer than 2 minutes to take a breath. So I was not able to turn on my device and do everything I was going to do. So I will share with you in a more detailed fashion what I had prepared for my grandfather. Now first, I want to talk to you about how the Giammi journey started, and how my grandfather and my grandmother influenced my life. Now I was raised Baptist my whole life. I mean, it's like we had a tradition of going to church every Sunday, and at least every Sunday we all sat down and ate, and we had to say a Bible verse. So that was ingrained in me, and it was a bold step for me to get to where I'm at. And let me explain how I got to where I was at. And I don't mean to offend anybody out there that's listening. Christianity and the Christians that were around me, although they were good people, they were not able to answer all the questions that I had in my life. All the questions of things that was going on. We were worshiping and doing things for something 2,000 years that happened supposedly 2,000 years ago, and then on top of that, we were predicting a future that wasn't bright for me. I had all these elders around me who had the opportunity to live a full life, and I was always told that the rapture was coming, and I had to prepare myself for this rapture when all these people had the opportunity to live their lives and not necessarily be concerned with the rapture coming. And the explanations for the rapture and the reasons for the raptures didn't make sense. So I was free enough in my house, even though my grandmother and my grandfather were staunch Christians. They allowed me to explore. They allowed me to study the Bible as well as anything else, as long as I did not get disrespectful. And I learned to be open from them, especially from my grandfather, because my grandfather wouldn't even argue religious ideas. You know, he believed what he believed. You believe what you believed. You had to get yourself together. So that gave me the freedom to go out and explore. Well, bringing it around to the journey, when I was about 21, between 19 and 22, I was dealing with a group of individuals called the Ansar Allah. They went through several transitions, but at this point in time, it was the Ansar Allah community. And basically what it was a community of brothers who was practicing Islam under, at that time, a brother by the name of Imam Isa. And I mean, their doctrine was tight. They was able to answer every question that I threw at them. I took a shahada, and I was going to join the community, which means I had to put on a white jalabia and be out selling incense and doing other things to support the community. And I was seriously considering this because it was basically guaranteed heaven, and they answered all my questions. But one day we was having a discussion, and one question popped up, and they had an answer for it, and the answer fucked me up. The discussion was about people going to heaven, and one of the older brothers that was there, who had been in the community from it basically its inception, and he had came to Columbus to live in the community there and help build. He wasn't the leader of it, because the leader was a little bit more open, but I was discussing with some of these other brothers that was sleeping by this brother every night and had basically his influence on him. And we was talking about heaven and people getting into heaven. And because a lot of African Americans were not exposed to Islam, they were automatically condemned to hell. So I was like, this can't be right. So I posed a question to the brother, and the brother basically told me that everybody who was not practicing Islam and could not speak Arabic was basically going to hell. Now, this is my issue, and this is what flashed in my mind. I thought about my grandmother, and I thought about my grandfather, who their whole life were Christians, because that was what was there, and that's what they believed. And I saw all the good work that they did. I saw them taking people in. I saw them donating money all the time. I saw them take care of me and my mother and her family, and also take in my cousins, and take in people that wasn't even necessarily directly related to us, and let them live there and feeding all these people. And I'm sitting here with this dude who basically got all these answers. These people, they got all these answers, but they telling me that my grandparents were condemned to hell because they weren't practicing Islam. So the first thing that came to my mind was, any creator, any God that would condemn people who was doing the best they could with what they had to hell was a creator that I didn't want to serve, period. So basically I kept the name and left the bullshit behind me and became Hatim, the person that's talking to you now. I grew into this person with this open mind, looking for answers, not necessarily looking for something necessarily to believe in, or looking for something where I could condemn somebody or beat somebody over the head with it. I was looking for where I fit, and I was looking for peace for myself. But I couldn't accept anything that would condemn anybody else, because for me to condemn anybody else would be for me to condemn people that I love. And I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for a more spiritual way where Christianity could be accepted, Islam could be accepted, the Hebrew faith could be accepted, Buddhism could be accepted, African traditional religions could be accepted. For me, the Creator is big enough to have all these things, and for there to be just one chosen group of individuals that was supposed to be snatched up to heaven, and everybody else was supposed to be burning in hell, was too fucked up for me. I ain't want to be. I would prefer to be in hell with the majority, you know what I mean? Because that's kind of fucked up, and I don't want to offend nobody that may be listening to this, but it is what it is. This is my show. Don't listen to the shit. You know what I'm saying? That's the bottom line. So because I'm open here, You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to debate some shit. You know what I'm saying? But, when you come on and condemning and all that shit, I can't deal with it. Well, anyway, that got me on the journey. And the thing that I did for my grandfather, I will do for y'all. But first, I got to send shots out to those individuals and those products that I love. First off, I want to send off shots to Oxy Water. You know what I'm saying? The world's first oxygen-enhanced mineral water. I love it. So, I promote it. You know what I'm saying? It ain't about getting no money. It ain't about I do things because I like it. I do things for people and objects because I like it. I like Oxy Water. Also, my kids can drink it with me and we have a good time. My daughter loves it, so I'm promoting that Oxy Water. So if you want to try it, go to www.tryoxywater.com. If you have not tried none, my favorite is Passion Berry, but my super favorite is Oxy Water Black. I'm still trying to figure out what flavor it is. If anybody got any ideas of what flavor Oxy Water Black is, because that's part of the mystery, please hit me up and let me know. For those of you that are sugar heads, I call y'all sugar babies. Y'all been raised on sugar your whole life, so any other type of sweetener is problematic for you. Oxy Water has absolutely no sugar, but they do use stevia, and stevia has a different sweet type of sweetness, so you have to get used to it. So give it a try. You know what I'm saying? You tried weed, you tried cigarettes, you tried all that other shit. Try something that's good for you. Something that provides your body with 70 minerals. Something that provides you with electrolytes. Something that provides you with B vitamins. Something that provides you with ginseng. It don't give you no fake boost, no fake energy boost. You know what I'm saying? And you have no crash. So give it a try. And also I want to send out shots to Orange 82 because they provide me with my opening and my closing music. They got some more stuff coming on. So go check out their site, support them, purchase some of their stuff. Support artists, you know what I'm saying? So go to www.orange82.com. Also, I love Gumroad. This is something that I'm working on right now, where artists can promote their own stuff through Facebook, sell it, and not get robbed. A lot of these other people that you sell your stuff through, whether you talk about selling books or selling music, they want to take half your profits, like they wrote half your shit. Gumroad only asks for a quarter. So that means I could put my books and my ideas out there for $1 and still possibly make a profit. So anything like that, I'm supporting. So I'm sending shots out to Gumroad. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to let Spreaker, and I suggest everybody get a Spreaker station. I'm going to let Spreaker come on and do their thing, and I'll get back into the stories, be in the stories or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Hit me if you got any requests or any questions. Feel free to hit me on my chat. So here we go. Guess who's back? Yo, check this out. This is Brother Hatim. I'd like to welcome y'all to the journey once again. For those that just tuning in, I am going to share with you my way of dealing with a pillar in my life, moving on, making a transition. I found a story that I liked a lot maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I never told this story because y'all know Brother Hatim don't have no problems with, once I find a story, taking it and adapting it for my use. I have no problems with that. So, anybody that's offended by that, I apologize. I hear a good story, that shit becomes mine. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe that the world is run on stories, and those that have the best stories make the best lives and the best economic products and all that stories. So I ran into a Zen Buddhist story some years ago, and I've been watching my grandfather for the last few years, and over the last 2 years he started suffering from dementia, then it moved into full-blown Alzheimer's, and I started watching him fade, and eventually son said, don't tell this story. Keep this story for after your grandfather dies. And because I held on to the story, it started growing in me. So as I noticed my grandfather was moving closer towards death, the story moved closer to life, and it came alive in me, and it really took on a life of its own. As a matter of fact, just as I was driving up for his funeral, I had to change the story because the opportunity for other things from this one story, as far as Giami tribe, arose. So here's the story. Once upon a time in the land of Giame, there was a wise man by the name of Elder. Elder was known all throughout the land as the wisest man ever. I mean, he got props from everybody. And he was so famous that after he passed away, his name, Elder, was used to describe men and women of great wisdom and age. That's how powerful he was. The idea of this man spread like this. But the reason that people really gathered around Elder and really, really loved Elder was the fact that he developed an idea, a concept of scrolls. And what he would do for all his patrons, whether they were royalty or of the lowest caste, or if there was a lowest caste, was he would create an individual scroll for each one of them. And in the scrolls, he would decorate it. He would put artwork in there that was just fabulous. And in the middle of the artwork, he would put a proverb, a quote, or a small statement from history that directly related to everybody, or directly related to the person that purchased that scroll. So in order for him to develop a scroll for you, he had to sit down with you and talk with you for a couple of days, and then the inspiration would hit him, and he would go and he would create your personal scroll. Now, what made him even more famous was the fact that everybody that got one of his scrolls rose to prominence in their field. Whether it was royalty, whether it was military, whether it was economic, whether it was farming, no matter what the individuals that were doing, when they read the scroll and they practiced what the scroll said and they used the wisdom in the scroll, they became prominent in their fields, and they lived happy and joyous life, at very successful lives. And the word spread, so people were trying to swamp him to come get his scrolls. Elder had a belief that he had a belief in sacrifice. He knew that if the people were not willing to sacrifice to get the scrolls, then the power of the scroll would not work for them. So he required that everybody made a sacrifice. And the sacrifice that they had to make at that point in time was financial. So people came. People with big money came, and they would pay big money for these scrolls. At that time it was currency, gold, whatever. They had to really show him that they wanted success, and they were willing to sacrifice to get it. So people were paying. And one day a young man came to him who had a little money but a lot of tenacity. This young man pursued Elder and begged him to create a scroll just for him. He wanted a scroll. He saw what it was these scrolls was doing for everybody. He saw the magic that the scroll was doing for other people, and he wanted it for himself. So he pursued Elder for months, and Elder was like, man, go on with that little bit of money. You really, you really don't want this. And homeboy said, I'll do anything. He said, look, Elder, I don't have the money, but what I can do is I'll work in your house. I'll do what you tell me to do. I want one of these scrolls. So take this little bit of money I have and let me work it off, work the rest off. So Elder agreed to create this guy's scroll, and the guy gave him a little bit of money and then worked for Elder for 2 years volunteering. Elder would have him do work in his house and work on his land, and Elder would send him throughout the nation to help other people, and he would send him to work in the houses of other older people in the tribe, so that he could earn what he needed in order to get the scroll. So this guy, he was willing to do it, and not only did he do it, he did it in joy. He did it with a smile on his face because he knew that he was working towards his success. So Elder finally surprised him and gave him the scroll, and the words that was engraved on it, this guy memorized it. This guy worked with it in his mind, and then eventually it became part of him, and he lived his life according to this scroll and became very successful. So one day he had a son, and when his son came of age, he drilled in his son's head the fact that he was successful because of this scroll, and because of what Elder, one of the things that Elder required was that everybody kept their scroll private. And he told his son, I can't share my scroll with you, but you can get your own scroll. So from the age of about 12 to about 18, this young man heard about how his father got this scroll, and this scroll helped change his life. So this boy, when he reached 18 years old, he wanted to get his own scroll. So the father helped him raise the money for himself and put him in front of Elder, and Elder had him work just like his father did so that he could get a scroll. And when he got a scroll, his success outdid his father's success. So as this young father now had a child, he wanted to get his child a scroll. And him and his grandfather sat down and had counsel, and they figured that Elder was old, and they didn't know how much longer he was going to be able to be in this world, and they didn't know when he was going to make his transition. So they decided they needed not to wait till this boy was 18 to get him a scroll. They needed to go get him a scroll now. So they left the little young boy at home, and they got their servants together, and they took an entourage up to Elder's place, camped out, and begged Elder to create a scroll for their son, their grandson and son. So Elder at first was like, I can't do that because I got to get to know the person I'm writing the scroll for. They offered him all types of things, and eventually they offered him basically a fortune. And Elder said, okay, I'll do it. So he sat with the grandfather and the father of this young boy that he was going to do the scroll for, and had them describe the son. So they described the son as adventurous. They described him as hard-headed. They was as honest with Elder as possible. So Elder listened to him for days, and they spoke and ate together and talked together about this young man. And one night, when the whole camp, when everybody was asleep, Elder got hit by the inspiration, and he created this scroll. And when he woke them up, he said, I have this scroll for your grandson and your son. I want you to give it to him, but when you give it to him, you must make sure that both of you are present, and that he is present, and that y'all read it to him, or make sure that it's read to him on a daily basis. So they took the scroll, and they took the trip back home, which was a long trip, and they made it all the way back home. And finally, when they got there, they were so excited they couldn't wait to share the scroll with this young boy. They set him down, and they opened the scroll, and he was about to read it, and the father read it in his head and looked at the grandfather. The grandfather read it in his head, and he looked at the son, and both of them were angry. They got angry because of what was written on this damn scroll. Now, I mean, they was upset. So they rolled the scroll up. They set the little boy out. They got their entourage. They went back up to Elder's place. They said, I want to say, Elder, we paid you a fortune. And this is how you repay us? You give us this garbage. You give us this curse upon our family? And Elder is looking at him kind of surprised. He said, listen, this is my masterpiece. This may be the last scroll that I write. And by the way, it wasn't the last scroll. It was one more scroll that Elder did. And I will tell y'all about that at another time. But that's another story. Well, anyway, Elder looked at him and said, this is my masterpiece. And I was inspired by the Creator to put this down for your child. And they said, and Elder said, well, what was so offensive about it? So the son, the father opened the scroll, read the scroll out loud. The scroll said, grandfather dies, father dies, son dies. And both of them look at Elder like he's supposed to feel guilty about this. And Elder start laughing. And they said, they couldn't see what the humor was. Elder said, listen, y'all are offended by this, but I want you to understand that this discusses the order of life. If you really think about it, no father wants to bury his child. No father wants to bury his child, right? So since no father wants to bury his child, what I'm teaching your son is the proper order of life. And if your son can adhere to the proper order of life, y'all never have to worry about him getting out in the world and doing anything stupid or doing anything dangerous, because his life will be geared towards making sure that he outlives y'all. And then if he applies the wisdom deeper, he will understand the order of heaven and earth. And if he could work within the order of heaven and earth, he will be successful. So since y'all think it's garbage, I'll buy it back from you. They said, what? Yeah, I'll buy it back from you. This is my masterpiece. I'll take it to my grave with me. He said, no, Elder, that won't be necessary. He said, yeah, it is necessary. I'll give you twice the price of what you paid for it. They looked at each and said, no, after you gave us the wisdom and what it's about, no. He said, well, I'll give you 4 times the amount. They said, no. They rolled it up. And he started walking out. He said, hold on. And the most important thing about this scroll is the power is in the story. Because when y'all share the story with how y'all suffered to get y'all scrolls and how y'all suffered to get the scroll for him, it'll make it realer for him. So they rode away. They gave the scroll to the son. They made sure that the son was read the scroll every day until he was able to read it himself. He memorized it, and from there he applied it to his mind, and he worked with it, and he became wise once he applied it to his heart and he applied it to his life. And his success outdid his grandfather and his father's success by double. Now, that's the end of the story. So, hopefully you got it. I'm going to share with you the poem, but I'm going to have to give y'all a break because that was a long story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Spreaker come back in and do their thing, and I'm going to fade out. Alright, we back on the journey. Here we go. This is the poem, and of course I appreciate those that's listening because this is my way of dealing with the passing of my grandfather, my peepaw. So, this is a poem I wrote for his passing, and it's called "His Story Is Mine." And I stress this because I got a radio show called Family Connections where I talk about the history of my family. But I'm sharing the history of my family with those that do take the time to listen, because I want to inspire you to get the history of your families. Because how can I? We need to take our family stories, because the key word in history is story for me. We need to take the stories of our families very seriously, because this is the lineage from which we come. And for me, one of the things that amazed me when I really started studying African culture was that hell for Africans was being forgotten. And it's a lot of our ancestors that have been forgotten. And we need to start remembering them, remembering their spirits, remembering the goodness that they represented for us, remembering the start that they gave many of us. Now, this story is called "His Story Is Mine." His story is mine, but yet my story is his. For now, I can no longer deal with what was. I now have to deal with what is. A great tree has fallen in the forest of life, a tree that provided shade for many and shelter from strife. But this story is not the end. This is not the end of his story, for his story is mine. And his story will live through his bloodline for all time. His story is not over because his story is mine, and I need for his loved ones to read between the lines. Although his body is gone, his spirit is strong. That explains why through the pain and confusion he lived so long. Fear not, because his story is not over, because his story is mine. He has made it to peace, and he rests with the divine. We are the seeds and the saplings grabbed from his tree, and now he can rest in comfort, for his story can be told by we. His story is not over because his story belongs to me, for I am a proud branch on his family tree. I will always remember those that came before, those that struggled like no people before. Like Miles Brown and the lady known as Miss Ann, their stories will live because it was passed to my hands. Like Herman Brown and Rosa Lee, like Geneva and Herman Brown II. And Cleveland Brown now can peacefully join their essence. Although his body has now returned to the earth, his story and their story has been cemented in time by Cleveland Miles Brown's birth. His story is mine. His story is ours. His story is ours. Now tell it. Alright. This has been Brother Hatim. I'd like to thank you for your time. Once again, sending shouts out to Oxy Water. Go to www.tryoxywater.com. Also, I want to send shouts out to Orange 82 for the intro and exit music that you've been listening to. Also, I want to send out shouts to Gumroad. I'd like to thank everybody that's been tuning in and supporting the journey. And with that, I say peace.